Welcome to the Rotary meeting. It's our grand experiment. I want to thank John During for being our Zoom driver. He's never done it before, and we're going to give it a whirl. I know we have over 100 people online now, and thank you very much for coming. We're going to ask everyone to put your Zoom on mute, and then, whoops, did we want this, John?
Well, I think you can just go ahead. You're doing fine.
Okay.
So I'll just hold it there and we'll have music on the tail end, but keep going.
Okay. I have news. I have a few orders of business before we introduce the mayor. I have a message from Bill Del Baggio's family. Bill is in intensive care unit at Valley Medical Center. And the Del Biagio family thanks you for lifting him up with your prayers for his recovery. So we will all hold Bill in our thoughts. Currently, firesides are going on, and it's a great time to connect with people. I know that Gary Shera showed up last night at a fireside and announced that he couldn't find a tie to match his pajamas, but he came anyway. These firesides are all being done by Zoom, and it was arranged and organized by Audrey Fox and Matt Breaker. Thank you very much to both of them. And a special thanks to the Rotary hosts of these firesides, Jeremy Harris, Brian Adams, Bruce LaFreda, Ann Ravel, Greg Yoder, Doug Smith, and Jim Towery. Thank you all for hosting firesides. I have a message from Rose Simmons about Rotacare, a short update. They are currently doing telephone visits until the shelter in place is lifted. They expect to have many more patients due to job layoffs, and they will prepare for that. But at this time, the clinic is not open because those healthcare workers are busy at hospitals. I'm sorry to say that Courageous Kids Day, which was scheduled for May 10th, Gay Crawford has told me that is postponed. There are two videos attached to the email announcing this Zoom meeting today. One is James Williams collected messages from various art groups in our community, and I ask you to look at it. It's very uplifting. This is a time when we need to enjoy the arts, and there are ways to do it virtually. So thank you, James, for collecting those stories, and I think everyone will enjoy that video. Stu Gans has an announcement, family announcement. It has nothing to do with house cleaning, so please click on that when you have time. Next week, we will hear from the Rotary Climate Action Committee, and they will do a report on some of the most amazing committee work you will have ever heard of. We will be introducing new members next week, and we will be giving blue badges out. I do regret to say that we still can't locate Joe Sweeney's blue badge, but as Bruce Fetra mentioned to me, think about it, he said, Joe Sweeney is a red badger, but he has 9 years of perfect attendance. So, Joe, we will continue to look for that badge. And congratulations on your great attendance. And finally, before I introduce our mayor, I am also announcing that the Rotary Fireworks Downtown event is canceled for 2020. And the reason is the public health concerns over gatherings that could increase the infection spread of COVID-19. We thank our fireworks committee, and we know it'll be back next year. And we especially thank our mayor, Sam Liccardo, for his amazing help through the years and support to make this a fabulous Rotary event. So we look forward to it next year, and I'm sorry we won't enjoy it this summer. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Mayor Sam Liccardo. He is our Bellarmine, Georgetown, Harvard-educated leader. He was a Santa Clara County Deputy District Attorney before his election to San Jose City Council in 2006. A matter of fact, while he was on the council, many people, including me, started calling him Mr. Mayor. He was elected as our mayor in 2014 and again in 2018. He has many accomplishments. I'll name just a few. He has balanced the need for pension reform while respecting the needs of civil servants. He has advocated for improvement of mass transit and to lessen congestion. He has worked tirelessly to innovate our city by bringing free wireless services to those in need. He has created housing opportunities for the homeless. He has drawn big tech to our city, and as a result, we are in the midst of a building boom like this city has never seen. Bottom line, he's hip and innovative, and he is a Rotarian. And now, right now, we are facing the most profound challenges our city has ever faced. And in the face of this adversity, we need intelligence, innovation, and a value-driven leader. And we have that. We're very fortunate to have that in Sam Liccardo. Sam, welcome to our virtual meeting today.
Karen, thank you. And thank you very much for the very kind introduction. I appreciate it very much. For those of you who don't know, I've known Karen for many years, as many of you do. A couple decades ago, Karen was actually my boss. It's very flattering to receive such kind words from Karen, because I know how incredible she was, what an amazing is, and what an amazing career she'd had. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to speak with all of you during this very, very challenging and trying time. And really hope, as I'm speaking to you, your families are healthy and well. I was very sad to hear the news about Bill DiBaggio, as I know all of you are as well. He's been an incredible champion for many important causes in our community, and is a wonderful, kind human being. And so we hope and wish him the best. And I hope that amid all the hardships that our community is facing, that your frustrations don't extend any further than your inability to get a haircut or find toilet paper. We know the hardships are far worse right now, particularly for the 100 families, actually more than 100 families who have lost loved ones in our county, and more than 20% of us who have lost our jobs. This is obviously a very, very challenging time. I wanted to borrow from Gabriel Garcia Marquez, describe life in the time of Corona, describing first what's going on with our city and our city team and what we're working on exactly during this time. Secondly, to talk a little bit about the Valley and the opportunity we have for the future. And so I'll talk hopefully briefly, and then would love to get to your important questions and comments right after that. First, I thought it would be a good idea, as you see the photograph there, that's me in the time when I had haircuts. I want to remember that. We are in this extraordinarily unusual moment. And as a city, I know, Karen, I believe there were some slides. Is that right?
Yeah, all you have to do is say slide and then it'll be moved.
Oh, that's great. Okay, can we go slide? Let me see if we may have given you the wrong versions. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just keep that on for a while. I'll just talk. That's great. So, you know, the city and the county obviously have different roles in all of this. I think many of you know the county, as the public health authority, issues the orders. The city's job is to enforce those orders. And I think many of you heard just an hour and a half ago, there has been a new order issued, I think, which happily will open up some parts of our economy for construction, for the many residents who are in landscaping and others who critically need to get a paycheck. That is important and good news, I think, for all of us. I think collectively what we're seeing with the good decisions that were made by the county early on to shut things down, I think hundreds, if not thousands of lives have been saved. And I saw that Chris Wilder's on the call. I want to thank Chris in particular as well for the work he's done with Valley Medical Foundation and really being able to leverage resources from around the Valley to be able to get PPE and ventilators and a lot of other critical resources in the places where they can save lives. we at the city have a very different role. My job as mayor, of course, since I tend to have a large megaphone, is to communicate the importance of our compliance with their orders. And we're doing all that we can to soften the blow of the hardship that so many of our families are facing right now, and really trying to also advocate within the county and the state and others how we can ensure the resources are there and that rules are set in ways that enable us to save both lives and livelihoods. I can say this, honestly, though, I have never been more proud than I am today of the incredible work being done within the organization, its city, as well as throughout our community. I've had just an extraordinary opportunity. I know others aren't as blessed as I am to be able to communicate with so many folks throughout our city and our valley who are doing amazing work in so many different ways. I was just on Facebook Live with a couple folks, one woman who decided that she was going to help raise money for struggling families through our Silicon Valley Strong effort by selling lawn signs that praise frontline workers. And so I got one in front of my house now, and for $20 you can get your own lawn sign, and she's raised more than $1,000 already, and it's going viral, and it's fantastic. So, you know, you just see what people are doing in so many creative ways, and it heartens you and reassures us that we live in a wonderful and blessed place. I also see online Suzanne St. John Crane, who decided one day she'd take up, I think, with a few other folks, Teresa Alvarado and others, to come up with a way to help us raise money through Silicon Valley Strong with an hour-long fantastic program at NBC, which was great, and I really appreciate Suzanne's work. We're just seeing this over and over again, and I hope that it gives us all confidence that there will be an end, and we will come out the other end of this stronger as a result of so many people stepping up. So here's the bad news, and I'll just get to the numbers real quick for a moment about our city. Obviously, the economy is in tatters, and it will be for some period of time. That has real fiscal realities for our situation in the city and our ability to provide services. We have a $45 million deficit to close just in this fiscal year before we get to the next one, which starts in 10 weeks. And so just yesterday, the council voted, mostly by polling on reserves. We've been working really hard in the good years to put money away for the rainy day. And I know when those rainy days come, we never regret putting the money away. So that has saved us this year. We'll be able to move forward into the next fiscal year without layoffs today or any serious cuts in services. Obviously, harder decisions are due in the next 10 weeks, and we'll be talking to you more about that. We expect a deficit will be north of 65 or 70 million. I expect as we get more numbers, that number may get worse, not better. And so we're going to be working very hard to come up with creative solutions. And we're certainly advocating with different sources about how we can backfill dollars to ensure that we can keep everybody on board through this tough time. You know, as we've been enforcing the order, we know we don't always get it right. There's an interactive process here between a lot of really overworked employees at the city and really overworked employees at the county, and a lot of folks in the community who have very understandable frustrations as to why they may or may not be an essential business. Please be assured we are taking those concerns very seriously and pushing constantly to see how we can ensure rules are being applied fairly in a way that hopefully do not cause any more pain than necessary to save lives. In particular, I know that we had for some period of time a policy at the city we would not even engage in, for example, inspections or permits for construction that was not clearly authorized under the county order. We've since changed that position. And so hopefully many of you are hearing that there is a green light to get those permits and inspections done. So that way, when the light turns green and the county says your crews can get to work, you'll be able to be there at the starting line. So we're going to keep working on efforts like that to ensure we can get folks back to work right away. What the city has had to take on is really a whole set of very different challenges now than we ever dealt with before. The county, of course, are focused on health. We have been taking on some new roles and responsibilities, for example, managing the distribution of food county-wide. Now, obviously, there are some great nonprofits like Second Harvest Food Bank and Health Trust that have already been in this space and doing very important work. our job was to find ways to scale that work and to ensure that food would get to those who need it the most. That scaling has been very impressive. With about 160 employees at the city, all working lots of overtime, we have now been at a scale that we're able to distribute about 2.5 million meals a week countywide, and we're going to continue to sustain that level and grow it. Again, in partnership with those great organizations I mentioned, many others. We're also forming new innovative partnerships with companies like DoorDash, for example. We were a pilot program for them, and now they're scaling what they're doing here in San Jose to other cities. We're proud to be doing that. We're also able to address homelessness, I think, in a different way. I think many of you know there was a state order that we really need to thin out the shelters and encampments where we know contagion is so particularly virulent within homeless populations. We want to ensure that there's sufficient social spacing, physical distance between individuals. And so in partnership with the county, more than 1,100 new shelter beds and motel rooms have been made available, and we're moving hundreds and hundreds of homeless individuals indoors. That's a good thing. Obviously, we know that's just a temporary solution, and we're working on the more permanent solutions in the meantime. I should say also in that period of time, while we've been doing all that, housing department, county, and many others have been working. We've now permanently housed another 300 homeless individuals just in the 8 weeks since we've been under this emergency order. So we're doing our best to also create some permanent solutions. I'm going to get back to those permanent solutions in just a moment. But I think as we think about the city and the challenges, we know we're just one organization among thousands here in Silicon Valley. And we recognize the imperative for everybody to get back to work safely. We want everyone to stay safe. We want everyone also to be able to earn a paycheck, because no amount of food distribution or other work by the city and the county is going to supplant and substitute for what the economy has done to enable millions of our residents to put food on the table. So I have helped to forge with several co-chairs the Silicon Valley Recovery Roundtable that is going to be focused on enabling us to get back to work as quickly as possible. I see the slides are moving. That's all right. Well, whatever slide happens to be up there, I'll just keep talking. And grateful that we've had a lot of incredible leaders, primarily private sector leaders, employers, like our co-chairs, Lisa Sues, that is the CEO of Advanced Micro Devices, Chuck Robbins, the CEO of Cisco, Carl Guardino, many of you know, of course, Nicole Taylor is the head of the Community Foundation here in Silicon Valley, Bob Alvarado, with head of Carpenters. Those are our co-chairs, and we're going to be announcing all the members in just a couple of days here, and we'll be launching. And I want to thank many Rotary members who are participating. I know Matt Mayhood and Teresa Alvarado, and Scott Neese was kind enough to suggest someone from his board as well. Really, we're focused on getting folks back to work, leveraging the intelligence and experience of all these employers we have in our valley. And after all, we have the most innovative companies on the planet, as well as workforce experts like Mike Fox Jr., I know is another Rotary member, and Ermelinda Sapien and many others who are going to help us ensure that as we recover, we are doing it together. And those who have been left behind historically in our community and in our economy are really the focus of our attention in getting people back to work and getting food on their tables. And so you're going to hear a lot more about this in the days and weeks ahead. But I certainly think that Silicon Valley's contributions to what we can do in this nation to help the nation recover will be beyond the merely economic contribution to the Valley, although I think we all agree that's essential. The Valley will lead the United States into recovery, just as it always does. But we also know there are unique opportunities, I think, for this Valley to shape the new normal. And that's really what I wanted to talk about for a few minutes, and then we'll go right to questions. I think many of you are familiar as you walk in the Tech Interactive. There's a wonderful quotation that greets boys and girls who jump off the yellow school buses every morning, or at least did back in the good old days before COVID. And that quotation is from one of our founding giants, Gordon Moore. It says, if everything you try works, you are not trying hard enough. If everything you try works, you are not trying hard enough. That is the spirit of our Valley, the creative spirit that says that we lean into failure, we lean into crisis, and certainly we live in a moment with ample evidence of failures of various kind. Failure has certainly been winning in many ways. And we toil amid this pandemic with horrible toll of lives and livelihoods nationally. But our Valley's ethos is a powerful one. And I think we need to recognize the power of failing forward and actually learning amid the challenges we face. And amid all this hardship and suffering, I think we should be asking ourselves, how can we reimagine ways in which we can come out the other side even stronger? Our innovative community, and I think that the incredible spirit and character of our community can play a critical role, I think, in reshaping that future and ensuring we improve the quality of lives in so many ways. And certainly there are very obvious technological solutions that you all hear about, I know, and you read about how we can be more resilient to pandemics like this one, new approaches to testing, companies like CFIT out in Sunnyvale, and contact tracing apps are being developed by Google and Apple, and infrared scanning to help us identify feverish folks, and expanding ICU capacity in the way that Bloom has done, for example, in rehabilitating old ventilators. And all of these technologies are important, and a lot of them require some very intentional and public conversations around issues of privacy and civil liberties, but likely they're going to be part of our landscape in the future, simply because we know pandemics will be a reality, and we're going to need to ensure that we are more resilient in the future than we have been in the past. But I think there are other contributions our Valley is making, and we think about working from home, and Lord knows it's overrated for an awful lot of us, especially for those members who have small children and know something about the challenges of conducting a Zoom call with a 4-year-old. We do know, though, that this technology, which is primarily led by Silicon Valley companies like Zoom and Cisco, is enabling a lot of folks to continue to earn a livelihood and keep things moving for many. And that's so critically important. And as we look at the future and we think about how that technology can be integrated in meaningful ways, I think we all recognize that we are yearning to get back into settings where we're able to engage with people more meaningfully. And certainly proximity does matter in the workplace and in so many social settings, obviously. But this idea of remote working is one that can help us grapple with challenges, for example, of traffic congestion. Can we imagine all of our companies working together to say one day a week, we're going to pick a different day and ensure everybody stays home one day to address the challenges of traffic congestion? And by the way, maybe gives everybody a little more time to be with their families rather than be on the road. Can we imagine how this could have a positive impact in our environment as well, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and smog? We think about how our technologies and our need to deploy them are changing how we think about government services in different ways. At the city, we've been trying to lean in on pushing our planning and building processes to more digital remote services for some time, relying, as we are now, just in just the last few weeks, we're deploying more remote inspections by video and camera, and being able to have inspectors not have to be out there on the road, so they can actually inspect more projects more efficiently, and hopefully at a lower cost to everyone. We moved more and more of our permitting processes online. We're moving forward aggressively in the next couple of months to enable everyone just to submit all their plans electronically, so you don't have those awful large rolls that are so costly and waste all that paper. Those are very simple things, obviously, but they matter, and they save time, they save money, and hopefully make us more efficient. I think we would all love to live in a world in which we never have to go into the DMV again. Why don't we use this opportunity to rethink how governments serve our community and recognize that in the emergency, we have been nimble enough to change how we do things. Some of these things might be for the better. Certainly, we think about healthcare in the same ways. Healthcare should be delivered in person in many cases, but there's a lot of opportunity for certainly for telemedicine and remote delivery of information for many routine calls. And this may be ways for us to reduce our healthcare costs and make healthcare more accessible for many who are struggling. And really, I think what we're seeing through this pandemic is how our digital divide has been laid bare. The extraordinary obstacles that are put in the place of so many of our children who are in low-income families who cannot learn at this time because they don't have digital access, they don't have a device. And of course, for their parents, it means they're not able to look for a job online. They're not able to get access to health information, how critical that is. And so I hope that through this pandemic, we are seeing some of these things more clearly in the imperative of doing more. Digital divide is work that we've been working on now for 4 years. Appreciate the work of many folks like Dr. Dewan, for example, over the county Office of Education, also is doing amazing work on food delivery, I should mention. And we're partnering with many folks like Dr. Dewan in the community. I think of Chris Funko, I think is also a Rotary member who is the head, of course, East Side Union High School District. We launched a pilot with him over at James Lick High School to enable 6,000 families to get digitally connected with no cost to them, in a partnership that East Side's picking up a big part of the tab, and we're helping as well. We're now working on a second community around Overfelt High in East San Jose, and hopefully soon thereafter as we accelerate this over at Yerba Buena so we can get more of our families connected and more of our children learning. We're able to leverage these emergency orders to get past some of the typical bureaucratic roadblocks, the lengthy RFP processes that we had, and so forth, so we can accelerate deployment and really use the emergency and be able to take advantage of the opportunity that exists sometimes in crisis. And I think you're going to hear a lot more about that in the week or two ahead as we're able to hopefully identify, with the help of some federal resources in the CARES Act that are being deployed to school districts in the city, we can do much more. And so again, these are ways in which we can come out of this crisis better. And Lord knows it's going to be a lot of hardship before we get there, but we need to continue to look for those opportunities. I'll mention one more, and that is around homelessness. I mentioned what we were doing temporarily to move folks into shelters and motels and so forth. A lot of work has been done, but we know that, you know, as we move hundreds of people into convention center facilities, for example, when this is over, we'll be pushing hundreds of people back out on the street, and we can't do that. And so we've tried to take advantage of this opportunity where, for example, the state has been willing to waive some of the challenging rules they had, for example, around CEQA laws. We can move more quickly in an emergency. And so we've identified 3 sites where we are piloting rapid construction of prefab modular housing for the homeless. We're going to build more than 300, and perhaps we can go to the next slide that may describe it a little better. There we go, with $17 million in investment. We're going to build more than 300 units of housing that will be emergency and transitional housing. What you see here are tiny homes we have already constructed on another site. These will probably look more like dorm rooms, and we'll be able to use it both for folks who are COVID positive, because we know we're not totally out of the woods here. There may be second and third contagions, and we're going to need to have places where we can put people that will be safe for them and for others. And then obviously in the longer term for homeless. And this will help us expand our inventory of critically needed housing for the homeless. Look for more to come on this. We know there's a lot of neighborhood concern about this in those places where we're locating these. In fact, we've got some demonstrations happening today in one neighborhood. Nonetheless, this is an urgent situation. I think we all recognize the need to build this housing and much more of it. I really want to thank Mike Block and John Ball, who've been deeply engaged early on for their role. They're great Rotary members, and Jim Ortball over our Department of our city manager's office. So with all of this, I guess I'm just trying to illustrate how Silicon Valley can really lead the way in pointing us toward a future after COVID. that is a COVID that is a future that is worth looking forward to. And if perhaps we could go back all the way to the Silicon Valley Strong slide, that would be great. This leads to the last point I just wanted to make, which is, all of our innovation, all of our creative ideas, all the things we might be able to do to show folks a better world, none of that is a substitute for a collective character. And I think that is what has come through in so many ways. And so many of you who are on this call now understand it well because you're doing it in so many ways in your community. And I'm so proud to live here, as I mentioned. But since we launched Silicon Valley Strong, I can tell you within hours of launching this website, which is siliconvalleystrong.org, we had more than 2,700 volunteers sign up. Right now, we've got 3,000 people who are out there delivering food to seniors and others who are shut in and can't get out. This is an incredible outpouring of support. And with the support of many of you and a lot of great companies who've been stepping up, Chuck Robbins over at Cisco, I mentioned, and Adobe and Zoom and Western Digital, many other folks, we've raised more than $25 million. None of that, by the way, is nearly enough. We've got 15,000 families who have applied for assistance, and we're going to need a lot more money to help all those folks. But we would continue to encourage you to keep supporting if you are able to. We know a lot of businesses are in distress, but if you're doing okay, we'd appreciate any support you can give to us. SiliconValleyStrong.org. These are funds that are distributed through a network of nonprofits like Sacred Heart Community Services, led by Destination Home. This is a constellation of nonprofits that's been hard at work for 2 years in homeless prevention programs very effectively, using dollars very cost effectively to keep thousands of families housed. We've seen it working as they've deployed it. And now we are taking that model and redeploying it in this pandemic crisis. And we're seeing them be able to quickly get help to those families who need the help the most for food, for medicine, for their critical needs. So thank you all for your attention for my very long-winded presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
So Sam, I will take the questions. People can send them to me through chat, just address them to me. And I have a couple that came through while you were talking, and a number of people were saying, thank you, Sam, thank you for what you're doing. One person said, thanks for the Gordon Moore quote. So the club is very grateful for you taking time. We know how busy you are to give us this briefing. I have a question about Wi-Fi for students. There are some students who are home and they come from low-income families that do not enjoy Wi-Fi in their home. Has the city been able to do anything to support those students?
Thank you for the question. So yeah, critical need right now. In our city, we have 19 school districts. And of course, they are the ones who run the schools, those boards, those superintendents fund the schools through, obviously, with state funding. And we don't directly involve ourselves in the operation of schools, but we do whatever we can to help support their really critical work. And so this digital inclusion effort that we launched 4 years ago started with a study we did with Stanford to try to identify where those obstacles were, where the needs were. We've been able to do some fundraising. Zoom was an early contributor to our efforts. And then we negotiated deals with 3 major telecom companies that have now contributed millions of dollars that we're distributing to nonprofits that are out there connecting our children with devices, with connectivity plans, low-cost plans that ensure their families can get connected, and skills with incredible leadership with our library team, our library foundation, as well as Silicon Valley Leadership Group. We've had a lot of kids in coding camps and so forth. So in terms of the immediate need now, we have been fundraising for this effort. I've been talking to mostly corporate donors. We are also looking at the recent Treasury guidance that came out from the federal level indicates that some of this CARES Act money may be able to be used for this purpose. That is to pay for low-cost plans for students and to get devices in their hands. So we're going to do everything we can at the city really to lean in with those school districts that are already leaning in. And by that, I mean, I mentioned Chris Funk, certainly East Side. They've been doing it for a long time. They had the vision to pass a bond measure years ago to try to help pay for some of this. School districts like Alum Rock, school districts like Franklin McKinley and Rocket Ship Charter Schools and many others. We're working with them. They're identifying the extent of their need, identifying the students who don't have devices or don't have connectivity, and we're fundraising, trying to fill those gaps. Again, Marianne Dewan, county office, has been really instrumental in all this effort. We know there are school districts that are not, that, let me just say, are not putting all the resources out there that they could. There are laptops sitting in classrooms today gathering dust. And Google Books and Chromebooks that could be in their children's hands. And we want to do everything we can to encourage those school districts to lean in as the other districts have. We know there aren't enough resources for everyone, but that shouldn't stop anyone from doing everything they can to help kids learn. And, you know, there are lots of folks who are making resources available. Rocket Ship Charter Schools, for example, put all their lesson plans online, so that way schools and parents could quickly get those lesson plans and deploy them. And if you go to the SiliconValleyStrong.org website, you'll be able to see there are resources available there. We've tried to create a one-stop shop for anybody who is either interested in giving help or getting help by going to SiliconValleyStrong.org. So you can definitely get more information there. So we're going to continue to push here. We know the need is substantial. We're going to keep fundraising and seeing if we can leverage some federal dollars. I think we'll be able to announce more next week, I hope. We're going to have to try to eat this elephant in multiple bites.
Sam, we have a number of members, obviously, that have their own business. And there is a concern that their plans for reopening, their respect for social distancing and safety of their customers is not being recognized by local government. In other words, they're ready to open with a model they believe is safe. What do you say to that?
Yeah, fair concern. So first, I don't want to speak out of school because anything I say, you need to understand it's not being said with somebody as somebody in the position of authority who can speak for public health experts and the officers who are making these decisions. The way the law works is there are 6 public health officers throughout the Bay Area who have been issuing these orders in concert, and the 6 Bay Area counties have been moving together. Those folks all work for the county, not for the city, although I have routine conversations, in fact, just about every morning with the board president and the county executive as we are communicating concerns. Obviously, we don't agree on every detail, but I fundamentally do agree with the county and their desire to shut things down early so that we could save lives. Obviously, we all want to see how we can get people back to work as quickly as possible. I have been working collaboratively, for example, in anticipation of this construction order with the building trades and many contractors to try to encourage them as they have moved forward with clear plans, safety plans that ensure that their employees can get back to work with distancing requirements in place, with appropriate equipment, et cetera. And they have really stepped up in a big way, and I think that's why we're seeing the counties move. We're going to continue to try to do whatever we can to encourage that communication. I do not have a magic wand that can direct a public health officer to pay attention when an employer has a better way of building the mousetrap. I am very mindful of the fact that employers know far better than any of us do in government how they can rearrange their workplace or how they can be innovative in shifting work in different ways that can ensure that people are both safe and able to earn a living. And I have expressed that view very clearly in a op-ed in the San Francisco Chronicle just last week, that we really need to open this process up, that we really want these public health officers to really identify what the goals are and let all of us come together in innovative ways to reach those goals. And rather than deciding which industries, for example, are essential or non-essential, which I think, frankly, government employees like me are not good at determining. I don't think that's our expertise. I think the public health officers should be telling us what is low risk and what is high risk, and what is safe and not safe, and allow folks to be able to reach those, the very high bars we should be setting for public health. I think what we're seeing now from the state is a real change, an emerging view. If you just saw the announcement yesterday from the governor, and we're in conversation with the governor's team 2 or 3 times a week, that they are really shifting from this model that says we're going to decide what industries are essential or not, to a model that says we're going to start to identify low risk industries to get people back to work. Because let's face it, if you earn a paycheck in any industry, that's essential because it's putting food on your family's table, and we need to do everything we can to get people back to work in a way that's safe. So I think we're going to see the primary guidance coming from the state level, and we are frequently in communication with them. And there are many organizations like Alan Zarenberg over at the Cal Chamber that are putting these plans together to hopefully help us open more and more businesses in that way. I'll continue to be an advocate where it appears we can do so safely. And that is my role at this point, is primarily advocacy, and as we continue to enforce the laws that are on the books.
Sam, we promised to end at 1:15, but I have 2 quick questions I'd like to add. Do you have time for those?
I do, and I'm sorry I've been talking so long. I'll try to keep it short.
No, that's great. And Sam, there's a great question that says, what can we each do as individuals to improve the economy here in San Jose?
Wow. Great question. So I'll just say one simple thing. If you're getting a paycheck or you're okay financially, we'd love for you to support our restaurants that are struggling mightily right now. If you can order some food from a restaurant every once in a while, that local bistro that you know is struggling mightily to keep their staff. And there's a list of all those restaurants on a website that's maintained by Team San Jose, and the URL is escaping me right now, but it's a Team San Jose website that you can get to through our SiliconValleyStrong.org website if you need to take a look and see who's open in case you're not sure who delivers. Lots of folks are delivering. So that's a simple way to support the economy. I guess the second thing I'd just say is, there are a lot of needy folks out there who need help in supporting the rest of the community. I mentioned SiliconValleyStrong.org because that's something I'm so passionate about. Second Harvest Food Bank and many others are doing great work. Please continue to support the charities you've been supporting because they're out there providing a lifeline to so many.
Thank you. And we have some homemade masks. Where should we deliver those, Sam?
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. So Chris Wilder, your very own Rotary member, has been a huge point of contact for everybody who is finding ways to contribute in some way or another. We even had some high school kids figure out how to convert our libraries into manufacturing plants, 3D printing of masks that actually meet all the health standards. It's incredible how brilliant these kids are. So, I mean, God, when I was their age, my parents were terrified to give me the keys of the car. So we've got a lot of folks doing great stuff like that. So thank you for volunteering your masks.
Great. And Sam, the final question is, are gardeners coming back? We've got, okay. So those 2-foot-high lawns will be cut soon.
Yeah, I'm hoping that my hair will too. But the landscaping, I understand, is part of the county order just came out. So I'm
great.
I would naturally incorporate gardeners because we know a lot of those folks are struggling mightily right now.
Okay. Well, why don't we all touch our space bars, unmute, and put up our hands for our fantastic mayor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. That was great.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Stay healthy, you guys.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Sam.
Practice your cartwheel.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Karen.
Everyone, stay well.
Thanks.
Adiós y gracias.
Adiós.